Brian Stelter, Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, they focused on Mike Flynn and Russia for 2 years, and they want you to forget about it now as they move on to inflated coronavirus death rates, bringing on non-scientists and hosting town halls with Greta, not because they are trying to fulfill their journalistic obligations in informing you, but precisely because they do not want you informed. So let's talk about Mike Flynn. I know Jill's been following it really closely. I have been following it closely, and I will tell you, I don't care. I have not that I don't care. I have fatigue in the sense that when this happened with Russia, I was always saying, all right, after the first 2 months, I said, this isn't going to go anywhere.
Right.
It's a crock. They're going to keep trotting out new information that's inconsequential. He'll probably be impeached. It won't go to the Senate. Nothing will happen. In this case, sure, Obama did horrible stuff. Do I think he's going to be charged? No.
Right.
No, where's it going to go? So let's just give you what you need to know so you understand the corruption at play. That being said, you don't need to always know every single new development because it gets to the point where you're so granular, it's hard to understand the scope of it. Here's the scope of it. An outgoing administration spied and used the FBI as a political arm to try and get a man in jail.
Which should scare the hell out of most everybody.
It should scare the hell out of most everybody. Let me give you a little more info now. The Justice Department, so they obviously, they dropped the charges against Michael Flynn, and now the attention is turned to how Barack Obama, the outgoing administration, how they sort of unfairly, or some people allege illegally targeted Trump's administration. So, of course, you have people on the left in the media, basically everyone outside of here and some radio shows, reporting on this. The whole thing, like I said, the whole umbrella, which is a real disservice to Americans as a conspiracy theory.
It's so disappointing to look at what we're seeing from right-wing media these days, where there's such an obsession.
He's so bad
with
they have to put other news people behind him.
Revelations about the Russia probe.
Trust us, there's more real people. Keep watching, please.
They're treating the Michael Flynn story like it's a bigger deal than the
Don't you wish you were watching Poppy Harlow right now?
When the president called into Fox and Friends the other morning, Friday morning, right before the unemployment rate numbers came out, he talked about the Flynn case for 20 minutes.
Those happy days are here again with a brand new conspiracy that Trump and Fox News are calling Obamagate.
Some terrible things happened, and it should never be allowed to happen in our country again. And you'll be seeing what's going on over the coming weeks. But I wish you'd write honestly about it. But unfortunately, you choose not to do so.
We'll see what happens. You'll see what it is. It's coming out in the next few weeks. You know what it is. I don't. Can you tell us?
I can't, actually. Obamagate is a phrase that
I don't know what you're talking about.
Seems to have no meaning except to tag his predecessor with some very nebulous scandal.
So let's go through this. Since they're so puzzled, let's kind of lay out the timeline. The Obama-era FBI, right? They were out to get Flynn from the beginning. Yep. They listened to his phone calls while he was on vacation, which would later be used in really what amounts to a perjury trap. The goal was getting Flynn to be fired or to be imprisoned. So Bill Priestap, who's a doctor, boss is stroke.
Yeah.
I
was about to say, how do you pronounce that? Stryzik.
I don't know. That's why I don't trust him.
If anybody's a Russian agent, it's him.
The notes read, what is our goal? Truth/admission to get him to lie so we can prosecute or get him fired, ? Now, I understand that's been shared out of context and they've tried to counter-argue that. So let's go on down the list. The FBI, they were moving to close the investigation early 2017 because they didn't find anything. And then Pete Strzok interviewed some people. And then he intervened, actually, to make sure the operation continued with the FBI. So they were going, there's nothing here, we're going to close it. Then he personally stepped in and said, no, we're going to make sure that we find something. So really, what did it amount to? That's kind of hopefully, does that people understand that timeline?
Basically
tapping calls, what they were doing with Flynn, and it amounted to what? Okay, 2 lies. That he didn't actually ask the Russian ambassador to refrain, to not respond to sanctions that were being imposed by Barack Obama. And then he said that he only asked how Russia would vote on a resolution that involved Israel, but apparently he actually asked them to vote against or delay the resolution, which, by the way, is not entirely outside the realm of his job. Let's keep going down the list. This is so boring. I'm sorry. Agents didn't even think that if you think, you think maybe Flynn was lying. Right. Agents didn't think Flynn was lying.
Nope.
In 2017, Comey testified, the interviewing agents, that Flynn had not made intentional misstatements, right? That they had concluded these guys testified. Comey, anytime he shows up, people just go, shit. And I used to feel bad for him because I thought he was hated by the left and he was hated by the right. But Comey, you've earned this.
Yeah, he screwed up in every way possible, I think.
Then Comey later denied this, but Washington Post even fact-checked him on it. Whatever it is. They do Pinocchio's or the Truth and Meter. Yeah, Washington Post.
They
and they really didn't want to.
They're like, we have to do
that. Was really hard for them. Like, it's a lie, but can we hit fall? It hurts. It burns. Flynn, by the way, people, and this was my primary question early on.
Big.
And I asked Donald Trump Jr. when we were doing the CNN stream, because at this point we didn't have all of the information.
Right.
I said, okay, if he is innocent, why did the guy plead guilty? And you know this probably. People don't always plead guilty because they're guilty.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, the entire system is set up to be an adversarial system.
Right.
So the prosecutors are literally, their job is to be aggressive in doing what they're doing to achieve the end, right?
Right.
And then by the same point, the defense attorneys have to do the same thing. And when you're, I don't do criminal law, but when the same thing applies both civil and criminal. If you are trying to get to an end and there's going to be a worse harm than pleading guilty, people plead guilty all the time, even if they hadn't done that particular act that they're accused of, or maybe they did something related but not as gross of a violation of that.
Like they did leave the ironing on and they don't want to pay the piper.
Sure.
So Flynn,
maybe they left the iron on, but someone else was smoking in bed, right? I mean, you could be like, I did, but that wasn't actually what led. But fine,
or eating in bed.
I did
and that's how they took out the mamas and the papas. It's a tragedy.
Oh my god!
Too soon and too heavy.
Not again.
So Flynn did plead. Would we say that's severe in that they threatened to go after Flynn's son? Because that's why he pled guilty.
Yeah,
so that they wouldn't prosecute his son. Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden, and early onset dementia example, has said repeatedly that he knew nothing about the Flynn investigation.
So what did you know about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, and was there anything improper done?
I know nothing about those moves to investigate Michael Flynn, number one. Number two, this is all about diversion. I was aware that they asked for an investigation, but that's all I know about it, and I don't think anything else.
By the way, there's no follow-up. He just said, I don't think anything else.
Ever.
He's like, please end the interview. That's all I have to say.
I'm not capable.
I don't have anything.
His handler's like,
I thought this was going to be a one-question interview, and I would like to think something else, but I can't think anything else. So now, by the way, in case there was some foreshadowing, it's been revealed by documents that we have. We can bring up an overlay. There's a dozen Obama officials, including Biden and CIA Director John Brennan, that they requested the unmasking of Michael Flynn and intelligence reports. So it wasn't just that they were involved or they knew. They were the ones who made the request. Now, here's my question. I know you have a point, but here's my question, Bill, because we're kind of in this right now with where we used to be with the Hillary Clinton emails. And a lot of people just sort of would speculate. They didn't really know.
Yeah.
When Joe Biden says, I know nothing, and now we verifiably can see that he was actually the one who requested it, what ramifications are there, if any, criminally?
None.
None, probably
none. Well, let me explain why. Let me explain why there's none criminally, because he wasn't under oath there.
Right.
If you were going to go the perjury route, or could he have been questioned about it? But in terms of an actual criminal penalty, I mean, no one's listening. Was it Stephanopoulos that was asking the question?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like nobody's watching that anyway. But it doesn't have the place, right? If you're there are different penalties for telling a lie outside of a court or not under oath than there is under oath, for the very reason being perjury. But that's not to say that there can't still be consequences.
Yeah.
Later, like if he were ever to show up to a debate, if he were to remember anything.
But if he were to say what he just said under oath, would it be a problem?
That would be a big problem.
Let's get him under oath. He's not going to remember that shit.
He'll do it again. He'll be like,
show
son
up
of a gun.
in front of a jury, be like, I know nothing. But we've seen this act before. Guilty. I should have thought something else.
But exactly what's going to happen is he's going to start doing some of the things that he's complaining about Trump doing, right? He's going to say, well, you're not coming to, I can't come testify. I'm busy with other things. No, can't open my records. Just like with Tara Reid, right? He's like, no, I know that I gave all of these records to a university, so they're already not, completely private, but I don't want anyone else looking. God forbid we actually look at the allegations.
Sir, you didn't send your record. You just sent a Dexter's Lab booklet of scratch and sniff stickers.
He was like, I didn't mean to send that. Please send them back.
Don't be like me. Now, the reason I'm exhausted with it is because we work in this sphere. And really, you could probably take about 3 pieces of information that and you would have enough of the picture. And this is why the media focuses on these things, for example. This is exactly why you see Brian Stelter, after nothing but Russian collusion for months, really for the entire administration. You're talking about years. I'm actually underplaying it by saying months. And now saying with coronavirus, after impeachment didn't stick, the Republicans are obsessed with Russia. Why don't you move on? That's my Brian Stelter. I knew you were saying like Richard Simmons.
Can you puff out your cheeks
enough.
a little more?
No, I can't. I mean, maybe I'll be more swollen
Can you gain
after
200
this,
pounds?
I'm not a method actor. And I'm not that committed to this show.
Good to know where the line is.
Felt like Brian Stelter. About as committed as Brian Stelter. No, he goes out and they talk about this and they go, oh, now we want to distract people with Russia. For the longest time, they wanted to keep this going to get as granular as possible because they know you can't keep track of it. They know it's exhausting. And they know that most Americans want to get a snapshot, want to get a macro picture. And I don't mean that you shouldn't be informed. Of course you should inform yourself. You should get as granular as you can. You should be as informed as possible. But there's a lot of information out there that is unnecessary because it's either completely untrue, as we've seen with the Mike Flynn case. In other words, everything that we knew about Mike Flynn up until the last month, pretty much false.
Pretty wrong.
And it was drip, 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 like a Chinese water torture for a long time, to the point where you go, well, we must accept it as true. And then you get tired and you're not paying attention anymore. And unless there was someone like a Barr here to kind of reveal this, you would have gone on your merry way thinking that Flynn was guilty of borderline treason. And it's not true. That's by design. And unfortunately, we have a 24-hour cable news cycle with talentless fat bags like Brian Stelter who focus on nothing but this precisely because they want to do the opposite of their job description. Brian Stelter, Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, they focused on Mike Flynn and Russia, Russia, Russia for 2 years, and they want you to forget about it now as they move on to inflated coronavirus death rates, bringing on non-scientists and hosting town halls with Greta, not because they are trying to fulfill their journalistic obligations in informing you, but precisely because they do not want you informed. And I attributing motive here? Yeah, I am. I rarely do that. After several years of what we now know to be verifiable lies, and now it's just ignore that, ignore what's behind the curtain. No, I understand how you can get overwhelmed. Here's what's not overwhelming. Here's something that I can say confidently, and you don't need to worry about getting wrong. Everything they said for 2 years, wrong or lies. Lies or wrong. Take your pick. Guess who I am? I'm Josh Hartnett. Bet you didn't think you'd see that face in a while. This is what we call an end card, which is where I tell you that you should subscribe if you like this video, or click one of these other videos that you may like. Hit the notification bell. Of course, join Mug Club, because that's what allows us to continue doing these videos. And just so you know, YouTube actually has created a new policy where they might start outright banning channels that are no longer commercially viable, which means that this is merely a figment of your imagination.